Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Today we start the bistro table that I've been telling you about. I don't have exact dimensions yet, but I have close enough that I can go ahead and get started. What I do know is I don't want a million single planks to make up my top. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because I only have a 6-inch jointer, which means I have this piece of wood right here, which is 9 inches. Means I'd have to cut it at least in half to be able to join it. And I don't want all of that. I'd rather keep it wider planks. So what we're going to do in that case is I'm going to use my router sled. I pulled it out of the dust in the shelf right up there. And maybe I'll explain a little bit about this because this is going to be a 3-part series. But basically, the router sled, let me get this out the way. Oy, oy, oy. Oak is heavy, folks. So it's basically, what I've used is 3/4 inch melamine. I put a stop on one end that's maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 thick. Doesn't really matter until you get close to that. I did inset the screws for just in case purposes. I would recommend waxing the bottom of it. And actually my planer bed is made out of the same melamine. So both of those get waxed so it slides nice and easy. But all you do, remember this guy, is you just put that on your sled. And I have made mine about a 1/4 inch narrower than the width of my planer. And you can see there's a wibble wobble. So what you do then is you come over here and you find your, yeah, there we go. Oh, that's not gonna work. You get some shims, and I am gonna shim it on this end because I always like the thicker end to be the last part that goes through the planer. That's just me. That's just how I like to do it. You might be different. Now, oh, I'm moving the whole thing. So there's no wibble wobble. Nope, that's that. Okay, so we're good. So that takes up my wibble wobble. Why do you have to do that? Well, the planer, if you have a bow and a board, when you put it under, the rollers have so much pressure, it's going to flatten that out. And yes, you'll have a nice, pretty planed spot. But as soon as it comes out the other side, it's going to go right back to that same whatever warp it is. I trekked down into the basement and grabbed the first piece of oak that I saw, which actually turned out to be not too bad, which is going to help. Now, obviously, the shim is sticking out. You can't have that or it's going to come out of the thing. So I'll just cut that. I'm going to actually mark it right now. And I'll cut that down so it sticks out about a 1/4 or a half. It doesn't stick out past the width of the planer bed, or sled, I should say. And then I'll hot glue that in place. Now, some people say you don't have to. Some people say you better. You can also use double-sided tape, which I might do that instead, actually, because I have no idea where my hot glue gun is. Here's something I do. Again, I've seen people say, well, you don't necessarily need that. Well, I do it anyway because it makes me nervous. What I have is another little 1/4 inch piece of oak. It's just a scrap. It don't have to be fancy. And I bring that up against it, okay? Now, a couple reasons for that. While the blades are going to be turning this way, I'm thinking in my head, blades are going to be turning this way as it goes through. The rollers are going to be turning this way, okay? And if you're not perfectly waxed up and it's not sliding all nice and pretty, those rollers, and I've had this happen, okay? I'm speaking from experience here. The rollers will grab the wood and move the wood and not the sled, okay? It's a little bit terrifying. It's not a tragedy. It's a little bit terrifying. Anyway, so I put a block down at this end. It's blocked at both ends. This board ain't going nowhere, okay? I just use some of those. Oh, mercy. What do we got? We got 1-inch drywall screws. Okay, drywall screws, they're so great. They really are. And I just run these, gimme, down into there as soon as I don't know where, right there. Run those down into place. And this board's ready to go. It's ready to send through the planer. All I got to do is cut this and double side tape it, and I'm ready to run it through the planer. I have 3 of these. They are approximately 30 inch. Tell me you guys do that. You set a tape measure down and you lose it. These are 31¼ inches. I had just shy of an 8-foot board, and I needed 3 pieces, just about 9 inches wide. 9 times 3 is math, 27. 9 times 3 is 27. I'm looking for a 24 by 24 for my top. At least that's my thought. I got to clear it with the wife. It's the lawn guy. It's fine. Anyway, I would like a 24 by 24. I need to clear it with the wife, but I have a feeling for the space where we're putting this, that's probably what she is going to want also. So I'm going to go ahead and get this shim cut, and then we'll shoot over to, hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. First time of the year.
First time. Has to come sometime, I guess.
Okay. As I was saying, cut the shim, put it in there. My lawn guy thinks I'm crazy, by the way, because he walked by and I was talking to myself. But I wasn't talking to myself. I was talking to you. He doesn't know that, though. So I'm going to get that double-sided tape down, and this thing's ready to send through the planer. That's next on the agenda, and I have 3 of these to do. So I don't know if it's a debate. I'm going to say it's a debate. It may not be a debate, but the question arises. If you're going to wax your, whether it be this bed or whatever, if you're going to wax something, what kind of wax should you use? And there's a million different answers, really. I use something that's not a woodworking project. I got a can of Mother's California Gold Brazilian Carnauba wax. Okay, this is for a car, and I never did wax that car because waxing cars is hard, but it works great on the beds, and that's what I always use. Okay, there ain't no sense in reinventing the wheel or spending money that you don't need to spend. Excuse me. This is what I got, so this is what I'm going to use. You got to do the whole bed. You can't skip underneath. We'll go ahead and, oh, wrong way. Go ahead and unplug that. Now, if you're going to be lazy, like me, and not raise this up really high, just be aware that there's blades under there. And conceivably, they're really sharp. Okay? Just be careful, is what I'm trying to say. And this ain't like a car where you got to go in the Mr. Miyagi circular motion and all that. I'm just putting it on there. It's all about the slippery and not so much about the shiny look of it. Okay? Okay. It is applied. It is applied. And we're done with this. That goes in the garbage. I won't even say use a clean rag. I'll just say use a rag. This is actually something that's been needing done to this for quite some time. So it's a good thing I'm using this and having to do this, because otherwise, let's face it, I probably wouldn't have done it. Okay, so that's all done. We just bring our sled in, make sure everything's in place. You can see what I mean by it is just the width of my planer, so that's just going to slide through. Wow, that slides really nice. That's just going to go through there. I'll set the height and everything. I always start off minimal. my first pass through, it may not even touch the board. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Okay, so at this point, you can see after very few passes, just pull that off of there. Again, my table saw top is the flattest thing in my shop. Oh, it's upside down. And she's flat. Now I can take this piece, run this face up through the planer regular, and I have two flat surfaces that are parallel to each other. And at that point, we can run it through the joiner to get one edge also. At that point, we'll have, I guess, what's known as an S3S. But basically, we'll have something to put up against the saw fence and cut the other part straight. So I'm going to go ahead and plane this face down. I have two more of these to do. And then we'll talk about how I want to put these together and make a tabletop out of it. All right. Okay, so once was all gone ahead and said and done, once I got done, finished with the milling process is what I'm trying to say. Two of the boards are thicker than I need, but they are playing flat both sides. I haven't edge jointed them yet. This board here was the tail end of the board, and by the time it got flat on both sides, it's thinner than what I want to use. It's probably just under 3/4, but I was hoping for 3/4, 7/8 for the tabletop. So tomorrow I'll go ahead and grab another piece out of the basement and bring it up and mill it down, because I've got a lot of other pieces that are going to go along with this. So for now, this is stacked and stickered. Hi, honey. Hi. And I'm going to let this percolate overnight. It'll probably warp again, and that's why we don't mill it to the final thickness right off the bat. So I'll come out maybe tomorrow and do some more work. Okay, a couple days later, actually let these sit for quite some time. When you're milling stuff up, I never mill it to final thickness right off the bat, because it's going to change. Like the board is going to change shapes and things like that. So they are now all milled down to the same thickness, all three of them. This is a nifty little gadget. If you don't have one, I think I paid $19 on Amazon for this. It's really cool. The problem with that is that you'll drive yourself crazy, as I drove myself crazy, trying to get it exactly to the perfect thousandth. They're really close. Anyway, the next step is I need one edge to be flat. So that's what I got to do now. So what I'm going to do is just mark this. That'll tell me when I have this completely flat. Okay, so for joining the edge, as I said, I marked that. All you're doing is you want to keep your flat side to the fence, run it through until those marks are gone. You got a square edge. So now you have a nice flat edge you can put up against your table saw fence. Use that to trim up the other side. You've got boards that are ready to glue together. So I have 2 more I got to do that way. Then I got to cut them to the right size. And then we're ready to start a glue up on this tabletop. Okay, so now I have all of my one edge flat, square to the sides, top, whatever. Anyway, that's the next step here. I'm kind of going in depth on milling, and I don't know why, but I hope you appreciate it. And if you don't, too bad. I'm going to do it anyway. This board got an issue. So it's going to hamper my 24 by 24 tabletop. I was originally going to cut all of this out, but I think I'm going to try and cheat a little bit and get to where at least I have enough glue space. So if I have to leave a little bit of this in there, I'll just make that the bottom of the table. I'll clean it up so it's not splintery, but I'll make that the bottom of the table because I really have my heart set on 24 by 24. If I cut all of this out and this piece wasn't quite wide enough, I'm going to end up closer to like 22 by 22. Still a decent table for what we want to use it for, but I had a design in my head. That's what I'm shooting for. So with my jointed side against the fence, I think I'm going to take half of that deficiency, I guess, out and see what that leaves me. Actually, at that rate, I'm going to take most of it out. Let's go that way about 3/8. And we'll see what that ends me up at. Let's see. I'm just going to cut it and see what happens. I get my gargles. Wow, it's that thing burning. So now what I have is just a very, very minor little bit there. And like I said, I can clean that up with some sandpaper so it's not jaggy and all that. And I can put that on the bottom and I have a really good glue surface here. I think I may need to change my blade and clean that one because I got a lot of really bad burning on that. I am going to run this through once on the joiner because I have a saw mark there. And just one pass will take that out and I won't have to worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my blade and then I'm going to run the rest of these through. Okay, so next on the old agenda is getting down to final length of these boards. I slapped them together, measured them. I am, when all was said and done, spot on 24 inches. So, a long time ago, I said whenever I was running my planer, I always allow for snipe, okay? And I got significant snipe over here, a little bit over here, and I want 24 inches. Well, I left myself enough room that I can square this up here. Actually, I'll give myself even a little bit more for the safety of it. I got birds flying around outside. Square this up, remeasure it, and I'm good to go. Next up for the tabletop is gluing it together. Now I did take some time to, it's not going to match 100%, and I don't want to make it look like it's one continuous piece, because obviously it's not, but I can kind of match the colors up a little bit. For instance, this piece has red through here, but it gets a lot lighter over here. This piece is lighter over here, gets more red down in this area. So I'm going to put the two lighter edges. The grain isn't going to match 100%, but I'm going to try and blend it a bit. Okay. Oh, there's a big old bee flying around. We're going to go with this. Someone gave me this Gorilla Wood Glue. You guys ever use that? Hello. Please go fly outside. You guys ever use Gorilla Wood Glue? This is, someone gave it to me. I don't know anything about it. Oh, pretty sure that's not supposed to happen though. Huh. We'll just put that back on, I guess. Okay. I always have a handy dandy rag because this is going to get messy. Now, I'm thinking, oh, here's another cool tip. My bar clamps, that one says it's 24 inches. It is not 24 inches. Your actual clamping space is more like 21 and a quarter, 21 or 22 and a quarter. So if you're doing a 24-inch table and you go to the old Hobo Freight and you're going to get clamps, do not get a 24-inch clamp thinking that you're going to be able to clamp 24 inches of material, because you will not. Go ahead and get the big dogs. I think these are what, 36? I don't know. Yeah, 36. So get bigger than what you need, because you're going to need it. Huh. We're going to stop the presses for a minute. Oh, that's not bad. Okay. A very slight snipe. I just caught it in the light there, but it's not really bad at all. I can sand it out. Uh-oh, what's happening up here? Do we got a... Seems as though we got a clog. Not no mo. Okay. Now let's see what we got. Oh, mucho better. Oh, right on the pencil. That was awesome. And if you're going to do this, just go ahead and stick your arm in the glue while you're at it. I don't get too worked up about glue ups. There's people that say it's all got to be covered. You got to glue both surfaces, yada, yada, yada. I just kind of spread it out and let it go. I've never had nothing come apart. I would like to not get it all over my hand though. Now, in all fairness, with the amount that I gooped on there, I am getting full coverage all the way up the edge. And on my finger pretty well too. Okay, we're gonna put that dog right there. And we're gonna put this guy right here. Mercy. Straighter's better. And I'm gonna get a couple of these guys. I'm really leaving myself a whole lot of room there. So all this is going to do is kind of hopefully keep them a little bit flatter, because this is not going to go back through the planer. Harbor Freight got new clamps like this, and I'm not really fond of them. I don't know. I don't think they're quite as good as their older ones that are like that. They still work. They're just, I don't know. The slide mechanism isn't as good. You know, oh, golly Moses. Case in point. Okay, we got them kind of like that. So I use the newer ones for glue ups because if they get nasty, who cares? Now we're gonna go ahead and crank away. I don't killer crank because I don't think you need to. If you've jointed your boards up right, you know, you don't have to killer crank. I don't understand how people do that. Like I'm already seeing glue squeeze out. I'm seeing my seams are closed up pretty well. I like it. If this was wet, this would be better, but we're just gonna go ahead and wipe that off anyway. It's really not bad. It's gonna be easy to sand flat from the looks of it. A little bit of a lip there, but it's not too bad. All things considered, yeah, it's not bad. I'm gonna stand her up, get the glue off the other side, make sure these ain't gonna fall apart, because that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? Okay. This ought to weigh about 14,000. Come on now, 14,000 pounds. Can't do it that way, gotta do it this way. Sure. And one more wipe. We can set this bad boy off to the side to dry. And we got a few more things to do to it before we can call the tabletop done, but we're gonna let this set up at least for a couple hours before I wanna keep working with it. There's no mechanical fasteners in this, no pocket holes, nothing like that. Glue itself is gonna be strong enough to hold this tabletop together. The way it's designed, it's gonna have a support going in 4 different directions, holding it up. So I think we'll be fine. I'm just gonna set this in a place where I'm not gonna knock it over later. Okay, we're to a point where we ought to be able to get the top out of clamps. It's been a few hours at least. And so we'll go ahead and get this out. And I can kind of start the sanding process, but there's some things that need to be done to it, such as some router work. And I think, I don't know, I have the slightest of differences here, which I could run through a table saw and take a half a blade off and clean that up. Maybe I'll do that, I don't know. But first I gotta get the clamps off. Okay, microphone died, sorry about that. So this is, after consulting with the wifey poo, this is the bottom, okay? One thing I can't stand is having a sharp edge on the bottom of a table. Now, you can chamfer it or you can round over it. It doesn't matter. It just so happens I got a round over bit in my router already. So we're going to round it over. This is, I don't know, it might be a 1/4 inch. I'll find out. I'll let you know. I just need to make sure this ain't going to hit the tabletop. Nope, we're good. And I guess we'll see what we can do here. Should have my earplugs in for this. Had to employ my belly clamp there, okay, but that's why I have it. So there, that'll all sand nicely, and then I'm going to change the bit, do the other one. Guess what bit we're going to use for the top? The same one we use for everything. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'll go ahead and get that done, and then we'll start sanding on this. Okay, ran around it with the router. Might be time for a new one of them bits, because it wasn't happy. Now, I have to do the sanding, and having this come out of the planer, I would normally hit it with a 120 and then a 220, but I'm out of 120. And I'm not going to start with an 80 because there's no need for it. So I'm going to start with a 220 and just see what it does. I just changed the blades in my planer, and I'm going to see if a 220 will take down these little differences, very minute differences of height, and we'll see how it goes. I have long since given up trying to hook dust collection to this because it doesn't work. So, yep, all right, plug that in and head to it. I'm gonna get this sanded and then we'll be done for the night. We'll check back in tomorrow. Stayed out last night and sanded the top and the underside. A little tip, maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. I looked it up. It might be a miniature Roman OG. Did they make such a thing? I don't know. Let me know. I don't know the shape of this bit, but it looks like what the bigger Roman OGs are, so we're going to go with that. Anyway, it leaves a cove. Well, mine must be dulling out because there was a lot of burn. You know, that's a pain to sand. So what I do is I have 5/16 dowels that I usually use with my dowel jig if I'm connecting things, but it also fits right in that cove. Now, for my case, where I have quite a bit of burning from the router, I don't throw sandpaper away. I'm weird, I guess. Like, unless it's completely gummed up and nasty, I keep sandpaper. So what I have is what I'll call a worn out 80 grit. I don't know what that makes it. Maybe it's closer to 100 now. I don't know. But I'm able to get into this cove area and I can sand all those burn marks out and not change the shape of the mold, the route on the side that I want. Because what's the sense in taking the time to pick out a nice router bit, something that your wife has asked you to do, and route it and then sand it all away? You know, that's not going to, kind of defeats the purpose is what I'm trying to say. So for me, most of my problem lies on what would be the end grain, which is typical. So that's what I'm going to focus on right now. I will check the long grain. I don't think I have a bump there that I can sand out, but for the most part, that's what I'm up to now. So try and get the burn marks out, smooth it out a little bit, and just make it a table that you want to sit at and drink morning coffee and look out the front window at the mountain. That's what I'm looking for. Well, I think that takes care of it. The top and the bottom have been sanded. I went through what may or may not be a Roman OG. And when I'm doing that kind of detail sanding, I don't want to use a random orbit on that because you will change the design in a split second. So I always do that by hand, including the round over on the bottom. And folks, here's the thing. You have a round over going across end grain, make sure you go back and check that because you're going to want to sand that by hand and you're going to leave cross cuts in your wood. Make sure you come back, straighten it out, okay? My little tip, especially if you're staining, because if you're staining, it's going to show up like a sore thumb. And you might be thinking, well, who cares about the bottom? Why are you worried about the bottom? This bottom's nice. I could flip it over and use it for the top. This is the bottom as I speak. So why do I care about that? Well, you know how it is. Someone comes to the house and they say, oh, is that a new table? That wasn't here last time. What are you going to do? You're going to say, yeah, I made that. Because you're proud of what you made, right? That's what I'm going to do. First person walks through the door, I'm going to be like, no, come here, check this out. And what are they going to do? They're going to go over that thing with a fine-tooth comb. they're not going to mean to. I mean, if you tell them, oh, I bought it at Walmart, they're going to care less and they're going to walk away because they know it's crap. But if you say, no, I made that from rough cut lumber, I did all the work, they're going to take a closer look at it. It's just natural. So spend some time on the bottom of the table too. Make it look good. Who knows? I don't build stuff to sell. I might. I haven't. But if someone comes in and looks at this table and says, man, I'd like to have one of those. Could you build me one? Well, after I pick myself up from falling over because somebody wants me to build them something, I got to come up with a price. But if they look at it and it's just the bottom, there's no one cared about the bottom, they're just going to shrug and not care. So take the extra time. Do the top because, yeah, that's what everyone's going to see. Do the bottom. Hand do your roundovers, okay? Make sure that there's no snags or nothing. What's worse than that is if someone sits at this table and they catch their jeans or their pants or something on a snag, that's gonna ruin it. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the top. The top is ready to go. There has been a change order. Just came in last night, actually. I was making, I'm making this out of oak. It's going in my kitchen. And the wifey poo said, can you make it look like the cabinets? And I said, I wish I would have known that before I started building it because I could have made it out of cherry and it would have looked exactly like the cabinets. But that's okay. I went to the hardware store and I'm a big fan of Minwax stains. I think I found some stain that's going to be just fine on this. But like I said, take some extra time. If you're going to do something that you're going to show off, take the extra time. Get it the best that you can get it. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. This is not a perfect world. I used to always say, don't let greatness stand in the way of good enough. Make this a little bit better than good enough, is what I'm trying to say. So this is going to get put up. I'm not going to stain this and finish this until I have everything else put together. I'll do it all at one time. This is going to get put up in a semi-safe place and stop back next week because now we have to build something for this to set on, which is going to be a center pedestal. So in the meantime, thanks for watching. God bless you. I'll see you next week.